a lot of people are thinking too much in two groups. Like they don't; those are the women that don't have children, and those are the women that do have children. Like, and I feel that we're just one big group. We're just women, and some opted
Yeah.
for parenthood and some didn't. And I think we still need to continue support each other because the world is going to try to divide women because the world knows that if women are a collective, they're really mighty and powerful, and the world doesn't want that. So that's why they're trying to divide women amongst each other. And I think if we're going to come together, then we'll be really powerful. And I think that's really scary for the world. So that's why we have to do that.
I'm Kelty McGuire, and you're listening to the Kids Are Childfree podcast. Hello and welcome to the Kids Are Childfree podcast. Today's guest is someone that I first became acquainted with over on Instagram, where she shares her fantastic illustrations as well as her art and her writings. And I have to say, some of it I really don't understand. And that is because she's actually based in the Netherlands and a lot of her work is in Dutch. But today we've got a conversation coming to you in English with none other than Marloes de Vries, who is an artist, author, and freelancer for over 25 years now. She is, as mentioned, based in the Netherlands, but she is in love with the UK, which we talk a bit about today. Now, Marloes' new book, Kinderen, krijg is optioneel. Don't come at me, Dutch listeners. I tried my best, which translates to Having Children is Optional, was published in November 2023. A book for which she researched extensively on the topic of child-free living, having questioned over 250 people, most of whom were women, about being child-free. And she also did in-depth interviews with 12 women for this same book. Now, Marloes is contacted regularly by the Dutch media as a consultant on the child-free topic and is of the opinion that everyone should be free to make the decision of becoming a parent, but strongly believes that we need to be mindful when thinking about and making this decision. Welcome to the podcast, Marloes. So thank you so much for being here. Marloes, you are someone that I've actually had multiple requests to have on. I know we've got some Dutch people in our audience who are a fan of yours. And of course, you also share amazing art and messaging and content in English sometimes. So welcome to the show. First and foremost, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're all about?
So my name is Marloes de Vries, a very typical Dutch name. Thank you, parents. I work as a writer, illustrator, and artist. The thing that I love most is combining text with words and making meaningful connections with other people through that. I recently wrote a book. It's called Kinderen, krijg is optioneel, which translates into having children is optional. And it's about why not every woman wants to become a mother. And it's very well received in the Netherlands. So I'm very pleased with that. And I love England. Maybe that sums me up a little bit.
Yeah, and you're there in England right now, correct?
Yeah, I'm here right now by myself, and I just love being by myself in a little cottage in the English countryside. Yeah.
It sounds amazing. And we were talking about this before we started recording the show today, and I had a little bit of I don't know, wanderlust is not the right word, but like I kind of want to go hang out in my own little English cottage after hearing and seeing a little bit online about the experience you're having there. So I look forward to talking more about that. And I'm sure being able to do these things is a nice benefit of your fabulous child-free life. Now, I want to talk about, yeah, for sure. No surprises there. Being in a cottage with a bunch of children may not be quite as relaxing, I'm going to surmise. We're going to talk more about the book in just a second. And I have to say, like, I'm so happy to hear that the book has been so well received, because I know that we first connected before the book had been released. You were obviously very busy with the promotion of that. And just to hear that outpouring of support that you've had. And again, I've had clients tell me they've read it and they've loved it. The only sad part is that I do not yet, maybe someday, understand and speak Dutch, although it does bear quite a resemblance in some ways to German. So my hope is, now that it's been so successful, could we possibly see an English version in the future, or is this wishful thinking?
Oh, I have my fingers crossed for this. And I already was in touch with a publisher, but the tricky thing is that a lot of in the book is also it's a a sort of hybrid book, I call it. It's a book with personal stories of myself, of other people that have chosen a child-free life, but also it relies a lot on statistics and numbers. I did a lot of research. I
Mm,
did actually researched it for about 6 years. So
wow.
I did plenty of it, and it relies a lot on Dutch statistics as well. So that's a bit tricky to translate and make it more universal.
Yeah. Well, I guess, I mean, it's always hard in some sense to confer one country to another. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the Netherlands are, would you say, quite liberal and progressive relative to perhaps other countries in Europe or even globally, or is that not the case?
I would say that the Dutch people and the Netherlands thinks it's progressive, but if you look
Okay.
closely, they're not as liberal, and they are quite old fashioned in certain ways, especially when you look
Mm.
at having children and becoming a mother. Like in France, it's much more progressive than in the Netherlands.
Okay, super interesting. All right, well, that sets the stage pretty well for it. So you are Dutch, you grew up in the Netherlands, and give us a brief education. I never know, is it the Netherlands? Holland is a specific area of the Netherlands, is that correct?
Yeah,
Or is that like an
exactly.
old
Yeah.
term that people say, yes, no, I got it? Okay.
No, no, you're
Okay.
exactly right, because a lot, even Dutch people say they live in Holland, but
Yeah.
Holland are just two regions in the Netherlands on the west side of the Netherlands. So they're two provinces, we call them.
Yeah.
That's Holland, and the whole country is the
Okay.
Netherlands.
All right. I nailed it. I did actually learn
Yeah,
that
you
when
did.
I went to the Netherlands a few years ago. And I also learned this is like fun facts. Now I've really derailed our conversation, but Gouda is not pronounced Gouda, it's pronounced Houda. Did I get it right?
Gouda,
Say it. Houda.
Gouda.
Yes. Winning. Okay. Amazing. We're off to a good start. Okay. So tell me, did you always know you wanted to be child free, or was this a decision you had to arrive at? And if so, how did that all come to be?
I think in some on some level I always knew, and I think even when I was a child, I knew, because I always found it really weird how young girls started talking about becoming a mother very early on. Like we have in the Netherlands, we have these little friendship books, and you write down your name, your age, your favorite food, and then it says somewhere along the lines of what are you going to be when you grow up. And I had a little book like that, and a lot of my classmates wrote down a mother, and I thought, a mother, is that a job? And it is. um,
Yeah.
and I also, oh no, that's not a job for me. I want to be an artist. I want to be drawing. I want to be writing. So I knew very early on that I wanted to be writing and making art and not become a mother. But when you grow up, it gets so ingrained in you, and people keep telling you, yeah, when you're older, you're going to be a mother. It's going to happen. Just wait and see. And mm, I think I was around 17 when I started thinking, I actually think that I'm not going to be a mother because I don't want to. And I started working a part time job then. And I started working in a swimming pool. So I was teaching a lot of children there. And I came in contact with the parents. And I realized then how hard it is to, to parent children. And I just knew this is not going to be for me. I like children, but not 24/7. And I saw that parenting was a really hard job. And yeah, over the years, even, yeah, I think I was around 20 when my then mother-in-law told me that she asked me, when am I going to have grandchildren? And I thought, I'm just 20 years old. That is just way too soon. And yeah, people kept nudging me like, are you going to have children? And I always thought, no, I don't think so, but maybe I will change my mind in the future. And that mindset really helped me to not make a black and white decision, but say, no, I don't want to right now, but I might change my opinion later on. So I kept the door always a little bit open.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I do think, we, especially I'm sure people listening, it's like they want to get off the fence. They don't want to be in that middle space. And I think it's unfortunately something that's almost like vilified sometimes in that child free space, as far as like, okay, well, you're not really child free if you're not sure, if you have a seed of doubt, if you're keeping the door open. But I also think it can be helpful and allow people a bit of space to really make sure that they feel good about their decision. And again, I don't want to imply that people don't know their own minds, but there can be something good about being in that middle zone, as uncomfortable as it can be. And so for you, like it's, it sounds like there was this innate knowing, but because of all this external pressure and these voices saying like, well, you're either going to change your mind or of course you're going to be a mom, that's your future path. You left that possibility there. And so at what point would you say you became more solid in that decision? Or like, do you remember there was a turning point for you where you really thought, no, this is it. I'm not going back, so to speak, or I'm not changing my mind?
Well, I had a friend that told me that if I would meet the right person, that I would want to be a parent. And at that time, I was already with my current partner. So I thought,
Ouch.
so I should get rid of him, get a new one in, and see if I want to make babies.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people think that. So they tell you, if you meet the right person, then you will know. And that was what happened for me as well. I met the right person, and then I knew for sure that I didn't want to be a parent.
So what they say is true, just not in the way that they expect it to be, right? Like
Exactly.
it's okay. So
Exactly.
tell me more about that. So how did you know when you met your partner that then like for sure not, this is going to be my path?
Well, when I met him, well, not when I met him, but when I got to know him a little bit better, I felt so at ease. I felt so at home with him. And I could be 100% myself. And if you can be yourself and be authentically you, however cheesy that may sound,
Yeah.
but you settle into yourself and you are more in touch with your own emotions and with your feelings. And then I knew for sure, I don't want to do this. This is not the path for me. I just felt it. It's really, I think it's really hard to say. And I know people want practical solutions for this, but it was really a case of feeling.
Yeah. I think we sort of intellectualize the decision and we want there to be this like predetermined path, answer these questions, do these exercises. And certainly it can be helpful to ask questions and to, explore things in that way. But I do agree. I think connecting with our feeling self and being, sort of in our heart as far as what's true for us, it's one of the hardest things to do. But I do think that there is so much truth to uncover there. And that's really beautiful what you told about your partner, and even you using the word feeling at home. This is how, I feel with my own partner and how I express things. So it's a nice little love story today.
Yeah, and I remember when we were just entering the relationship, I wasn't so sure yet, and I still got distracted by a lot of outside noises, as I call them. So people kept telling me, "Oh, just wait a couple of years, and you will get the we call it rammelende eierstokken, which means like shaking ovaries."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, I don't know if that's going to happen. But I think what really helped me was also taking myself out of those situations. So, as we talked about before, I went to a little cabin in the hills in England just by myself, just to be at peace and just gather my thoughts as well. And I think you really have to close off all the outside voices as well, just not listen to them.
Yeah.
And it really helped me to just take myself away from my social situation and just go somewhere else where nobody knows me and just come to myself.
Yeah. And did you, when you went to that cabin or the hut, I'm living in Germany, I'm like, is it a hut? Is it an alm? I don't know if you have a similar term in Dutch. But the cabin in England, when you went there, was it with the distinct purpose of trying to figure out this question, or was it just sort of like, was it a creative pursuit for you to go do some art, or like what was, and how long were you there for?
So I did it multiple times. The first time, I think I did it for a month. And I just knew that I was overwhelmed. So I'm a really sensitive person, as we call it, a highly sensitive person is the official name. And that means that a lot of input gets really into me very quickly. So sensory stuff, but also how people feel. And people tend to project a lot of feelings onto other people. And I would take them to heart. And I thought I have to deal with all these thoughts that other people are having. And I was just so overwhelmed the first time. And I thought, oh, I need to get away from this. I need some peace to myself. I need to find my own rhythm again. I need to find when I'm tired. I didn't even know when I was tired or when I was hungry because I was so attuned to other people's needs that I completely forgot myself. And I also feel that if you're like that and you are sensitive, then it is really key to take some time to yourself to realign yourself with your own basic needs and your feelings. So I did it for a month the first time, with that intention, just to realign myself again. And I did it again a year later, and then the year after that, the pandemic happened, so I didn't go. And this is the first time again that I'm doing it.
Wow. So cool. Yeah. And for clarification for everyone listening, like you've done this all alone, right? Like your partner's not there. You're in England right now on your own as well.
Yes.
And perhaps people listening, they also enjoy their own company as much as you and I do. I love being alone, and it's something that I really relish and bask in. But I think for a lot of people, that must feel like really courageous to go spend so much time by yourself. And I believe, where you are now, I think you said you have some community connections, and it's not that you're necessarily on your own 24/7, although of course you might be sometimes. But I totally relate to that feeling of just like, and again, putting this decision itself aside, but really just wanting to attune yourself, like, where am I at? What's working and not working for me, broadly speaking, and to feel into that. I did that a couple of times on a smaller scale, just like I call it a self-retreat, where I've gone away for a few days, similar kind of thing, gone to like a natural setting, just totally relaxed, journaled, gone for meals on my own. And I can only encourage people listening to do the same for themselves, specifically if you're grappling with this question. Not with the express purpose of walking away with like, okay, I have a fixed decision at the end of a weekend or the end of 2 weeks or a month or however much time you can afford to take.
Yeah.
But just, like you say, to just kind of like come into yourself again and tune out the noise, metaphorically and literally speaking.
Yeah, so I will never recommend going to a busy city by yourself if you want to have some clarification in your mind. So I would recommend going somewhere where it's rather peaceful, where you can walk into nature very easily, because I find especially nature very soothing and very calming. So whenever I feel overwhelmed, I take a walk in nature, and that seems to always calm me down. I don't know if that's the case for everyone, but it really helps me. And also what you just said, well, I really enjoy my own company, you just said. I have that too. And I hear a lot of people, they say, oh, I would love to go on holiday by myself, but I'm so scared to be alone. And I always think, yeah, do you not enjoy your own company then? Or what are you looking at someone else to satisfy certain needs? Because I think we can satisfy a lot of our own needs by ourselves. And I think that's very healthy as well. So coming back to what people say a lot about child-free people, aren't you going to be afraid to end up alone? And I think, no, because I enjoy my own company. I know that I'm safe with myself, and I know I'm also building a community around me. So no, I'm not afraid to be alone, because I feel content with that.
Wow. I really like what you said there about being safe by yourself and feeling, safe within yourself and secure. And there is a safety there. And at the same time, and talking about community, I think when we're on our own, we have more openness in our own minds and also in the eyes of others to make those connections. Because when you're, if you're with your partner, or you're with a friend, or you're with a group, the rest of the world often perceives you as like closed off, as far as like they've got their conversation happening, or they've got their kind of own energetic,
100%.
vortex, if you will. So yeah, I know for me, I meet people when I'm by myself all the time. And, I would give advice to anyone. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. When I'm with my partner on holiday, I don't get approached by anyone. But as soon as people see that I'm alone, they are surprised as well, because I'm a woman walking alone in nature. What's going on? Men don't approach me because I think most men are quite good, and they think I'm not going to approach a woman alone. That's not what you're supposed to do. But if another woman sees me, she will strike up a conversation, and I love that, because you're like you said, you're building new connections, and that's what I love about traveling alone. That building connections on the way.
Yeah. So cool. Me too. I was going to make a suggestion that if anyone's listening and thinking, wow, I'd love to cultivate more of that and being alone and having more comfort with that, like start in small ways. And I know some people, even the idea of going for a meal on their own can feel really daunting. So go for lunch. And I would encourage you, you can bring a book or you can look at your phone, but I would encourage you not to, or to at least take some time, let's say, while you're enjoying your meal, just to look around. And it can feel awkward at first, but like, trust me, nobody's looking at you. And if they are, they probably have great admiration for the fact that you're out there on your own. But like, I really, we're not, we don't stand out like a sore thumb like people might think when we're out on our own. Yeah, start small, and it's a muscle that needs to be flexed, but it will become more powerful. So
Absolutely, yeah.
okay. On the note of your partner, I'm curious, you said when you met your partner, you felt like, okay, I feel more at home. I can be myself. There's acceptance here. Did you tell him when you met him that you didn't want kids, and or what was that conversation like, or his own perspective? Did he say he wanted children or not?
I think we spoke about it rather late, actually, in the relationship. I think we were together for a couple of months, maybe, before we started talking about this. And because I knew quite certain that I didn't want to have children, I told him, I'm not sure about your future plans, but I don't think I want to have children. I might change my mind, but I don't think I will. And if this is something you do want, then you need to be honest with me. And then, because it's about our future and our, yeah. And then he said, no, I don't want children. He was very adamant, like, no, I'm not going to do that. And that was it. So that was a really easy conversation. I can't imagine how hard it must be meeting someone you absolutely adore and love, and then hearing, yeah, I do want to have children. That must be so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you met your match, and I'm so happy to hear that you both had similar feelings and felt like you could support one another in that path.
Yeah, and that's why also I don't believe in one true love, because I think there are many people that are suited for you. No one is perfect, by the way. It's not like we have the perfect relationship, but we match on many levels, and that's really nice. And this is a really important level that we match on. So yeah.
Tell me, what made you decide to write this book?
I decided to write this book because I already had read a lot of books about this topic, especially in the English language. There are a lot of books on this topic, I feel. and But I also thought they were all a bit too serious and a bit too scientific, and yeah, I just missed something in that space of those books on that bookshelf particularly. I wanted to make a book that was really accessible to read, with humor, like I said, a different kind of book. And because I have been working as an illustrator for many years, I knew from the start that the illustrations were going to be really important as well, and the playfulness that the text and the illustration combined makes it really playful. So I thought that was really important. And also at that point when I started writing it, there wasn't a Dutch book about this topic. So there were English books, but not Dutch books. So I really felt strongly about making a Dutch book about this topic, because we call it a taboo here, this subject. It's quite a taboo in the Netherlands that as a woman that you choose not to have children. And I kind of wanted to demolish that taboo. And I hope I kind of did. And I think I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Was it tough to find a publisher, for example, or for someone to pick up this idea and say, like, yeah, we need to talk about this? Or was there an openness to that?
Well, the funny thing is that most people find it really hard to find a publisher, and actually, this publisher came to me. So a couple of years ago, I think in 2016, I wrote an article about this topic. It was called "Where Are My Shaking Ovaries?" Like I mentioned before, it's an expression in Dutch. Because I was really wondering when are my ovaries going to shake? Am I going to be infected with this baby virus that and it didn't happen for me. And then this publisher approached me and said, we loved this article so much. Would you be willing to write a whole book about this topic? And at the time I was 32, I think. And I felt not ready yet, because I was still in that space. Like, I think I know for sure that I don't want to have children, but I want to keep the door open just a little bit in case I change my mind. So I wanted to be more certain that this is something I really didn't want to do in life. And I wanted to do proper research. So I was 32 when I was asked to write the book, and I was 38 when the book was finished. So that's about 6 years of research and really diving into this topic.
And was it with the same publisher who'd made that initial inquiry? Like, was the door kind of open that whole time, or were you working on the book continuously, or how did that work?
Well, I said to the publisher that I was not ready to write the book. And in the meantime, I started doing the research, not telling them that I wanted to do it at some point. So I think I was 6 years in when I asked the publisher again if they were still interested. And they were. So that's when I just picked it back. I picked it up again.
Wow. It feels like the whole thing was sort of meant to be in that sense that they, they loved
I was
what you were
very
sharing
lucky.
and talking about. Yeah, and that door was still open. Of course, a lot can change in the publishing world and in the world, as it does and did over 6 years. So that's incredible.
I think this is a topic that is really of all ages almost. It's changing a lot now, but women not wanting to have children has been going on for decades. I would even say for hundreds of years. There were always women that didn't want to have children. So I think in hindsight, the 6 years that the publisher waited for my book, it's like a really small amount if you think about all the women that have always been contemplating whether to have children or not.
Yeah, such a good point. And that's a good segue into a question I had about the research that you did and like what you discovered or uncovered about child-free women in this decision. Was there anything particularly noteworthy or surprising that you want to share with us?
Well, I think mostly when I came out, I felt a little bit like coming out there. And I said publicly, I don't want to have children. That so many women came up to me and said, I don't want to have children too. And I don't dare to talk about it because I'm afraid of the criticism I will get. And I'm afraid that my family will disown me or family will not be in touch with me anymore. I felt really shocked by that, actually, how many women actually don't want to have children. So we know about childlessness, and I always assumed that there were more childless people than child-free people. But if you look at the statistics, there are a lot more, not a lot more, but more than half of all women without children is intentionally without child, at least in the Netherlands and Belgium, that is. Yeah. So I didn't even know that. I always assumed that when a woman doesn't have a child, it must be a sad story. It must be not intentional. But it is, in most cases, intentional.
Yeah, that is super interesting. And as you mentioned, those statistics are not necessarily globally applicable, but I'm sure, and I think what we're seeing with kind of the incidence of the child-free choice is that it's relatively similar across different countries. And there's, of course, a growing interest in this path, if you will, or at least people speaking more openly about it. Because I agree, I think historically, understandably, it is a sensitive topic to broach with someone, to ask someone why they don't have kids. But when I think about, the very, very few people who I ever came across in my life without kids, my assumption was typically that they had wanted them, but were unable to have them. And I think I've even heard specifically from older generations that was almost like a helpful sort of bubble of belief to have around you, is that it makes it so people aren't asking questions. It's like, if people want to think I want kids, but I couldn't, and that's my story, then that's probably better than them finding out that, God forbid, I didn't want kids. I didn't want children.
Yeah, I recognize that feeling as well, because sometimes when I don't elaborate on why I don't have children, I just say, no, I don't have any children. And sometimes I just leave it at that because I don't want to evoke a discussion or whatever. But when I feel comfortable enough, I always add that, that I didn't want them, just to be clear that there is no reason to feel sad for me, because this is my intentional, this is my decision.
All right, you want to know what is almost but not quite worse than feeling totally angst-ridden and indecisive about whether or not to have kids? It's other people and their questions about, when are you going to have kids? Or what do you mean you're not sure? Of course you're going to have kids. These kinds of questions and comments can make things that much muddier when it comes to getting clarity on whether or not kids are right for you. That's why I created my Kids or Child-Free Response Guide. It is a free guide with 25 different ways that you can answer the question, so when are you going to have kids? When the answer is, I really don't know. You can find that guide either in the show notes for today's episode or at kidsorchildfree.com under the free resources tab. one thing, so you've talked about the fact, there's been so much support and resonance with this book and women saying, yeah, me too. And this is, I also don't want children. Something you had shared with me previously is that people sort of have your ear, so to speak, and that you get a lot of messages, not just from people who have chosen not to have children or maybe making this decision, but also from parents as well. And so I'm curious, what are you hearing from people, and specifically is that correct that mothers and parents also message you, and if so, what are they saying?
Yeah, mostly mothers. Once in a while, a father that will message me. And mostly the mothers say, I'm really happy that you wrote your book, because I don't want younger women to walk the same path as I did. I get a lot of messages by mothers that regret having children, unfortunately. And that's why I wrote my book as well, because I want people to know that this is an option. A lot of women
Yeah.
go into life thinking that it's not optional. It's just a requirement of life to have children. And it's not. It really is an option, and you can opt out of it. So these mothers, they will tell me that if they had known that they could opt out of motherhood, they would. And that just breaks my heart. A while ago, there was this mother that says, it has ruined my life. I can't talk to anyone about this, not with my family. But she felt like she could tell it to me. And that's true. She could tell it to me because I won't judge. And I so understand it, because I can imagine a life that I would have had children, and I think I would have regretted it. I would have made the best of it, and I would have tried to be a good mother. But I'm so happy that I realized that I could opt out of this. So yeah, I think it's really important for women to know that you don't have to have children if you don't want to.
Wow, such a powerful message. And I think it's something that we can't hear enough, especially if we're on the fence. I was having a conversation with someone just a few days ago, and I kind of wrapped that up. We were talking about working together, and I said, there's nothing wrong with you for not knowing. And like, the feelings you're having are totally normal. And she was like, wow, I needed somebody to tell me that. And it's something we hear seldom, if at all. And it makes me, I'm getting kind of emotional sharing it, but seldom, if at all. And it's the message that I wanted to have, or wish I would have had when I was in this ambivalence and trying to make a decision. So you heard it here
Yeah,
again for those of you, listening.
I think that's really important. Also, what you said, that a lot of women also think it's a really black and white story, that either you know for sure that you want to have children, or either you know for sure you don't want them. And that's not true. That's just two ends of the spectrum. And most women are in between. They're just indecisive. They don't know yet, and that's totally fine. And also, I believe, and that's kind of the message in my book, that whatever you choose, whether you want to become a mother or you don't want to become a mother, either is fine. And yeah, while talking about regret, I don't know about other people, but I often hear, oh, won't you regret it later? And I think, well, there are so many things in life you're going to regret, so many things. And life is just full of regret. But this is a regret I can live with, and I'm okay with, because I made a really conscious decision. And I know if I'm going to regret it, I did it with I was full in it with my brain. I was full in it with my feelings. And this is just something I chose to do.
Yeah. Such a good perspective to have. And I'm curious, did you always feel that way? Or was there a time where you worried about this possibility of regret? Or have you always had sort of this pragmatic approach to it?
Well, I had a sort of FOMO, like a fear of missing out
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
And I thought, what am I missing out on? But I really thought about it. What am I missing out on? And I talked to a friend a couple of days ago about this, because she does have a daughter. And she was talking, I think the daughter is about 14, 15 now. And she has her first boyfriend, and she's just full on blossoming into life. And I said to my friend, I think this is the only bit I'm going to miss, that you see a child from really small growing up and growing into a full person. I think that's the only bit I kind of miss from seeing up close, because I do have two nieces and I see them growing up and I see them blossoming and whatever, but I don't see it really up close on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only thing I am going to miss. And at the same time, I'm fine with that. I know I'm going to miss it, but that's okay. I don't yearn for it that much that I want to experience that.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of the challenge and the tension with this decision is knowing that there will be times in life with whatever decision we make that we have to sit with some discomfort or a wistful feeling or a feeling of, oh, that would have been nice. And that's okay. It's never going to feel all good all the time. It doesn't make it the wrong decision though. And I think we have this real false belief that when we decide, it's like, smooth sailing, everything's good. We never look back. And I just don't think that that's realistic.
No, I think whatever choice you make in life, you're going to have regrets. Whether you are going to be a mother, you're going to regret it at some point. If you're not going to be a mother, you're going to regret it at some point. But those are small moments. You will get over that, and you will. As human beings, we are built to come over those kind of things and just continue on in life and make the best out of it. So I think it will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, this message, for example, that you received about this woman saying she regrets this choice and that she feels it's ruined her life. I would agree with you, a very sad message. And I want to honor people who are having that experience. I also would argue that there is, to use the words you just used, the way of making that best of it, to be able to say, maybe this wasn't my best choice, or there's things about this that I really dislike, or maybe even hate. But the notion that we're then anchored to something or someone in this case, and that's just our terrible lot in life. I think that will, if that happens, require us to do some important work to say, I can move past and with and through this, because otherwise, yeah, you will feel miserable and like you've ruined your life, regardless of what choice that may be.
Yeah, and it's not the first woman that has told me that. I have so many women that emailed me that they regret their decision to become a mother. And it takes a lot of therapy, I think, to work through that.
Yeah.
Also, I
Yeah.
feel that when people tell me, "Have you thought about your decision?" I think I have thought about my decision for 20 years. I know what I'm doing, and I do feel that a lot of women don't think about it, because I hear a lot around me from mothers that, "Oh, I didn't even think about how hard it was going to be," and I thought, "How can you not?" So I would
Yeah.
urge every woman to really think about it. If you really feel that you want to have a child, really consider the consequences and really consider what it's going to do to your life. Because I feel on every end, on the one end of the spectrum, the motherhood spectrum or the child-free spectrum, I feel that if you make a conscious decision, it's easier to sit with the regret if you have that as well.
Yeah.
So conscious decisions are the best, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think when we have like intention and deliberation, there's a lot less likelihood of regret. And to that point, I was talking about motherhood regret the other day and on Instagram, and somebody said to me, I think we should also talk about this notion of child-free regret. And I said, would love to bring that to the discussion. However, there's very little evidence to suggest that child-free people regret their decision. And the reason why is it has been such a conscious decision that they have enacted after typically much contemplation, or being at least feeling really secure in that. So, by the way, if anyone's listening is regretting their child-free choice, hit me up. Let's talk about it on the podcast. But yeah, it's just not something that we commonly see as much. And that's something I hear from parents a lot as well, is like, I didn't realize it would be like this, or that it would be so challenging, which of course doesn't mean it's not worth it, but it does mean that we need to be aware of and ask ourselves, is this the kind of challenge that I want and that I feel well equipped for?
Yeah, because the University of Michigan did, I think, a research on this, and practically none of the child-free people regret their decision. There are a few, but it's not, I think, not even 1% of people. And I think it has everything to do about making conscious decisions. So, for example, I have I have worked every scenario in my head what a child-free life is going to mean for me. So I've thought about, how would it be to not see someone growing up? How would it be to not parent someone? How would it be when I am old and gray and whatever, can't walk anymore? How do I take care of myself when I'm really old without children? I've had all the scenarios in my head and I've contemplated on them. And based on that, I made a decision. And I feel that for my friends, especially my friends that are mothers, they say, never thought about that. What what is going to be like when you have children, when you're older, and how it's going to impact your life. And I feel that's really important. And I think every woman should do that, to realize the impact of having a child, but also not having a child has on your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm curious, I'm sure there's people listening wondering. So, what did you come up with specifically where it concerns those later in life concerns? How have you sort of contended with those, or what's your plan, if you will? Although I realize it may be, not fixed at this point at your age. What do you think of when you think, okay, what's going to happen when I'm old and I think you said can't walk, or I'm
Great.
not well, or whatever. Gray and old. Nothing wrong with being gray. I've got
Yeah, I'm
mine coming
great.
in.
Keep trying.
Yeah. I think a lot of women our age are already. What have you come up with on that?
Well, first of all, if you have children, it doesn't mean that they will visit you when you're older. It sounds really cruel, but that's just the case. So because a lot of people tell me, well, if you don't have children, you don't have company when you're older. I think that's such a bad way to think about your children, like they're your company keepers. That's not
Yeah.
their role, I think. So what I do know that if you like company and you like to surround you with people, make sure you invest in community, make sure you invest time in your friends as well. I have a few friends that are child free and they're slightly older, they're in their 60s and 70s. And I asked them, are you lonely? And they always say no, because I always kept in touch with my friends. I always kept a community around me. I invested a lot of time in
Yeah.
that. And they had that time because they didn't have children. So that's one
Yes.
big perk of not having children, that you do have the time to invest in your friends and your community. So I would say that it is more likely to be less lonely when you're child free, because you spend so much time building your people around you and supporting your friends and whatever. So
Yeah.
I trust that will be fine. I'm not even a little bit scared of that. When it comes to care, luckily I live in the Netherlands, so our care system at the moment is quite well. I have no idea how that's going to be in 40
Yeah.
years. You can never tell. So that's really hard to tell. So I understand on some level that having children might secure a little bit of care when you're older, if the support systems of the government don't work out. But what I do is putting aside money in case I need healthcare when I'm older on. So I'm really consciously putting money into a savings account in case I need it
Mm-hmm.
later on. And the rest is just guessing. We can't know what's going to happen in 40 years. And
No.
I don't know if I live in 40 years. Maybe I don't live in 10 years. It's such, I have no idea. So choosing for something like having children because you want to secure a future doesn't seem really realistic to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think I've gone through sort of similar mental exercises and considerations for myself. And I think, yeah, and going with the assumption, we have no idea how long our lives will be, hopefully long. We also, I think when we worry about this, like being kind of, old and decrepit and requiring care, we're working with the assumption that that's going to be our state of health and being. And there's many people who are living well into their 90s, hundreds. They're talking people might live to be 120, 30. I don't, it remains to be seen what that kind of living is
Oh,
going to
I
be
don't
like.
want to.
It depends. It depends, right? Also, we have to recognize that models of care and living may change. I think we're seeing more specifically with the child-free space, like community living, shared care models, as well as technology and the role that's going to play in the kind of care that's available to us. I don't think any of us like to think about a robot having to wipe our bum, if you will, but perhaps better than a human, right? They probably have more precision, and it's yeah. Anyways, things will get derailed quickly if I go down that path. But the point
Yeah,
is, I think put money aside, make sure you're investing. Take care of your health and your well-being. We operate in the present, so taking care of yourself today is the best you can do for tomorrow, aside from making some of those, financial contributions. But I fully agree with you. It doesn't warrant having children if that's your sole reason for doing so.
yeah, yeah. In my book, I have a little chapter. It's a short chapter, almost in the end, what you have to take care of in the Netherlands if you're going to be child free, like a testament. How do you call it? Is that a testament? That when you die, where your money goes, where all your belongings
A
goes.
will. We would say a
Oh, oh
will.
well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of stuff. Really, little chapter about really practical stuff you need to do when
Yeah.
you don't have children. And if you know that, then that's all you need to know. That's it.
Yeah. And there's more and more resources like that, depending on where you live, and the information is there. It may require a little bit of sleuthing to uncover it, but it's by no means impossible to find the answers that people are needing. So before we wrap things up, I would like to ask you a couple of the things or a few of the things that you love most about your child-free life.
Oh God, so many things. Where do I start? Well, first of all, the freedom that I have. Like I said, I'm right now. We're talking while I'm in a cottage in the English countryside by myself, fully enjoying it. Had little stress thingies going on here as well, so it's not all wonderful, and it's
Still
just
life.
normal life as well. Like any, but I did think what I love about my child-free life is that I don't have to worry so much about someone else. And that sounds a little bit selfish, maybe, but the last couple of weeks I've encountered some stuff that are really tricky for me, work-wise, money-wise, and I kept thinking, I'm so happy that I am the only person I need to take care of. Me and my partner, I have to take care of both of us, and I don't have to worry about a child, taking care of a child right now, because I have more headspace for myself right now. If I were to have a child, first of all, I wouldn't be here in a cottage. I would probably at home. What I also love about not having children is that it gives me the ability to work as an artist. So I know for sure that I couldn't be an artist when if I had children, because it's not. I'm the kind of artist that doesn't make a lot of money, so I know that I would have opted for a sensible job, as I call it, if I had children. So a more steady job with a steady income.
Yeah.
Or you would require a rich partner. I don't know. You can do it like that, but if you are a mother, I feel like I would have wanted to give my child some sense of stability. And with a job that I do have now, I wouldn't be able to offer that.
Hmm.
So because I don't have children, I can be an artist and have that instability in life. And I really love being an artist. It's just, I feel like it's my vocation. I light up inside and I just want to tell stories and I want to make pictures. And I can't fully know, but I know for 99% sure I wouldn't be an artist if I had children. So I'm really happy about that. And also the freedom to make choices on a whim, even. So my parent friends, they have to make appointments well before, and they have to arrange everything. If I just wake up and think in a weekend, I'm going to take the car and drive somewhere and just sit in nature, I can do that. I don't have to check schedules, or I don't have to go to soccer practice or whatever. I can do whatever I want,
Mm.
and that sense of freedom really makes myself blossom.
Yeah. I see this just hearing you, watching you here. We're recording on video, which P.S. check out our YouTube channel if you want to catch this interview on YouTube. And hello, YouTube viewers who are watching this. You just light up when you talk about your art and the freedom and this life that you have. And like, gosh, aren't we all so grateful that you are creating these beautiful contributions for all of us to enjoy? So, thank you for sharing those things with us. Now, I have to always, kind of keep things balanced here. So, if you could share one or two challenges, if any, for your child free life, what would you say is challenging about it?
Um, I don't think there's anything challenging about it. Um,
That's fine. Valid answer.
I think maybe 8 years ago, I found it challenging when people would tell me I'm in the wrong relationship. A friend told me back
Yeah.
then that she said, "You're in the wrong relationship because you don't want to have children. If you're in the right relationship, you want to have children." And I
Wow.
did lose our friendship over that because she was just too negative about it. And because it's such an important, it's part of me. Not wanting to have children is an integral part
Yeah.
of who I am. So if you can't accept that, you're basically saying, I don't accept you. So I won't have that. So I did lose a friendship, an important friendship over that. So that was challenging. But also, I gained a lot of new, beautiful friends that accept me fully for who I am. So I can't say that there are really big challenges, to be honest. I just love it. I
Yeah.
know that this is right for me, and no challenges for me, I think.
Perfect. That's a wonderful answer. All right. Before we wrap things up, I have a few rapid fire questions that I love to ask all of my guests. So the first one is finish the sentence. Being child free is.
Giving me the sense of freedom that I can do whatever I want to do in my life and be fully content with it.
Being child free is not.
Selfish is the first thing that pops in my head.
Yeah, true. It's not. What is one thing, either sort of societally or culturally speaking, that you believe would make this decision easier for women who are on the fence?
By tuning into themselves and not listening to outside voices. So taking that space and time to retreat into yourself and make a decision from within yourself and not listen to other people's advice on this.
Yeah. What is one thing that you would like women who are moms to know?
That we're all that we're not that different, that the only big difference is that one has a child and the other doesn't have a child. And I feel that there a lot of people are thinking too much in two groups, like they don't those are the women that don't have children and those are the women that do have children. Like, and I feel that we're just one big group. We're just women, and some opted
Yeah.
for parenthood and some didn't. And I think we still need to continue support each other, because the world is going to try to divide women, because the world knows that if women are a collective, they are really mighty and powerful, and the world doesn't want that. So that's why they're trying to divide women amongst each other. And I think if we're going to come together, then we'll be really powerful. And I think that's really scary for the world. So that's why we have to do that.
Goosebumps. That's all I can say. That's a clip I'm going to be pulling for promotion. Amen. Wow. Agree. Hard agree. Okay. If you can outdo yourself on this last question. If you could give one piece of advice to someone who is currently on the fence about whether or not to have kids, what would that piece of advice be?
Sit with it. I think just sit with it. And if you're going to, because talking about it with someone like you, Kelsey, really helps. But you have to have someone that doesn't have a strong opinion about this, that is able to not put an opinion, not ingrain an opinion on you. I think someone like you is able to do that. But if you're going to ask your parents or your friends, then you're going to get an answer that fits them, and they're going to project their life onto you. So sit with it, talk to someone that can be really open about it and won't cast a judgment on it. Yeah, talking really helps. I think for me, it really helped to keep talking about it, like saying, why do I not want children? Why don't I want to be a mother? Just to get some clarity. So sitting with it and talking, I think that's it.
And then go to a cottage in England.
Yeah, always helps. Yeah.
You've got me convinced. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Marloes de Vries. Did I get it right? Did I say it?
Yeah.
Help me
For
with
an
my Dutch pronunciation. Let's try it one more time.
Marloes de Vries?
Marloes de Vries.
Yeah.
Marloes de Vries.
But for an English-speaking person, you did it very well. Very well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I try my best. All right. Well, thank you for being here. Before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work? If we have any Dutch listeners, which I know we have a few in our audience, where can they find your book? Tell us all the things.
I love that you have Dutch listeners. I think I will tell
do
other
too.
people to listen to, because your podcast is amazing. Yeah, people can find me on marloesdevries.com, but that's a terrible name because nobody knows how to.
It'll be in the show notes. It'll be in the show notes.
I can be found on Instagram as well at Marloes de Vries. And for the Dutch people, I wrote a book called Kinderen, krijg is optioneel. And I hope people will read that. Not only child-free people, but also mothers that are interested in knowing why some women don't want to have children. So that's it.
Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a delightful conversation, and thank you everyone for tuning in today. That concludes another episode of the Kids Are Child-Free podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's conversation. Now, if you have not already done so, first of all, I want you to give us a follow over on Instagram. Our handle is @KidsOrChildFree. Otherwise, I will link to that in the show notes. And what I would love for you to do is to slide on into my DMs and let me know who would you like to hear on the podcast as an upcoming guest. This can either be someone in particular that you would love for me to have a conversation with, or maybe it's a certain type of guest. There's somebody in particular that you are wanting to hear from, whether that be, hey, Kelty, I want to hear from somebody who had kids later in life, or I want to hear from somebody who specializes in childhood trauma, or whatever it may be. Let me know who you want to hear from, who would be an ideal guest, and I will do my very best to get them onto the podcast for a future episode.